who have joined us today. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Freeman?
Here.
Mrs. Gator?
Here.
Mrs. Moomin?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Ms. Mitchell?
Present. If everyone can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're at item 1.3. If I can please, before I ask for the motion to approve tonight's agenda, Dr. Rock or Mr. Jolly, are there any additions or deletions from tonight's agenda?
No, ma'am, there's no additions or deletions.
And I do want to thank the board for their patience. We have vacations and crazy busy schedules, so the agenda was up and ready. We made a few slight adjustments on yesterday because we had to add section 8, but the agenda from a board perspective is ready. So with that, if I can please have a motion to approve item 1.3, the June 21st, 2023 regular board meeting final agenda.
Madam Chair, I move item number 1.3, approval of tonight's agenda, June 21st, 2023, regular board.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you, ma'am. If there's no further discussion, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. At this time, if I may please have a motion to approve item 1.4, the meeting minutes for May 10th, 2023 work session and May 24th, 2023 regular meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for May 10th and May 24th.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you. Board, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. Dr. Rock, can you please call the vote?
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. At this point, we are at public participation. And Dr. Rock, do we have any public participation cards today?
No, we do not.
And did we get anything by email?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome, Councilman Howard, and welcome. How you doing? All right, we're going to keep moving. We don't have any official board reports. I didn't know if you want to give a final update on the last board.
No, I would probably need to bring the final determination of the last word. Since I was out, I did not capture all the information. I do know that we did make over $35,000. I do know
Wow.
that. But I will give a detailed report at the next meeting. Due to my absence or vacation, I was not able to put out a report. But we made money in door sales at the basketball game, at the dance. So I mean, we did significantly well. T-shirt sales were out of. I mean, we had to order like 300 T-shirts, and, because we only bought 200 initially. I had to buy 300 more.
And
So I'll bring a full report to the next.
Didn't those sell out? They sold out on Friday night.
Yeah, we sold out on the first night we sold them, which was Friday. They sold out. So then we had to put a rush order, and we got the rush order in on Saturday. Actually, we sold out Thursday night.
Yes, it was Thursday.
It was Thursday night. We didn't have any for the game. And then there was a young lady, I think she graduated 86. She had T-shirts. And I heard she sold every T-shirt she bought. She didn't live in Cleveland, but she sold every T-shirt that she bought. The event was well attended. I think all the board members who were there and all the people who attended, I think every night progressed. More people came. First night it was pretty small. It wasn't a small crowd. It was a big crowd the first night. Second night the game was pretty much sold out. We have pictures, we got videos, all these things we'll show you. Because we did have a videographer. We just got one of the videographer things today. But the game was like wall to wall, standing room only. And then Saturday, the dance part was nice. It was started off with performances, the alumni choir. Then you had alumni band. Then you had a DJ in the gym, and then the all school cookout went beyond anybody's comprehension on how that was. I mean, it represented us from the class of 70, earliest class was 74, all the way to 2020. All were there. Everybody had a good time. It was safe. We had not one incident at all the entire weekend. Not one police call. Not one drunkenness. Not one. All the concerns we had about people bringing in liquor and things. I don't know if people did it, but we didn't see it. No one came in there smelling like any other pharmaceutical or anything like that. So it was a good event, I thought. And it laid the groundwork for an all-school reunion next year, along with some type of activity commemorating the opening of the new high school. Anybody else? I'm sorry.
No, that was pretty much a really good wrap.
But we'll give a financial report to this.
All right. Thank you, sir. We're going to move on to item 1.7, superintendent report and a construction update.
Right, so I'm going to defer to Sean and Doug. I do want to give 2 updates before that. You know, we're working with the city on the vision of what can happen at John Dewey. Of course, we have not talked to the city or engaged the city in any negotiations about John Dewey or Eastwood. We haven't had any conversations. I do believe last night at the meeting, the mayor was given authorization to engage us about both properties. Yep. So I anticipate them coming to us relatively soon to discuss both properties. But there will be a meeting on July 12th at John Dewey to discuss the Green Road expansion. Just the vision of what could possibly happen. We did have our kids give, like in summer school, our kids did a little visionary activity to see what would they want at a park. They put basketball hoops, swimming pool. I saw zip lining. I saw a whole bunch of things, and I'll forward you with the kids. So I think the conversation is well worth it. Of course, with your direction, we will, if we engage in negotiations, that we will do in the best interest of the school district.
Mr. Joel, what time is this meeting?
6 to 7:30.
What day is it?
So Wednesday, July 12th. I believe yes, Wednesday, July 12th. And that will be facilitated by the city. I think not by the city, by the county. The county is the one facilitating the study, so they'll be there and just talk to the people about what they want to see. So once that's done and there's some type of vision, and I think in that process, we'll start that conversation with the city about what possibly could be traded or swapped.
And it's a grant, right? So it's something that we would both have to come up with a decision on.
So so my understanding of this is that whatever happens at the park, we're not responsible. We're responsible. John Dewey is our land. If there's, and I have to meet with Jason, our attorney. I'll meet with him on Friday to find out all the parameters. But I believe it's the same parameters of Westwood and Eastwood. That whatever, if it's in our possession, then we will be responsible for what happens there. But if we transfer it to the city, then they'll be responsible for what happens there. So I'll have the specifics after I talk to our attorney. But my understanding is the same process as with Westwood, which we will have to agree on some type of equal swap or so forth. Or it might be another pathway through the Port Authority where there is possibly a sale. I do know that you could go through the Port Authority. The Port Authority then takes possession, and then they serve as the conduit of a purchase also. So I don't know which direction that we will go, but we will go in one direction. But once they engage us, then I'll come to you guys for permission to speak, but I would start doing this conversations with Jason to figure out what our options are. Another thing is one of the partnerships we want to do with the city is the food truck Thursday. I do have that on pass it on. And the conversations is just trying to bring people together, like build a community. So what we want to do is partner with them on like just bringing food trucks up here to the municipal center twice a month. You know, if you look at like South Euclid, Cleveland downtown got something called Walnut Wednesdays, and I used to go to that all the time when I worked downtown. And it's just a good way to bring people together, really to highlight the community. I did see that. I did approach the mayor and them said, "What do y'all think about it?" And they thought it was, they agreed it was a good idea. So we're gonna try to partner with them on rolling this out. They're in the process now of figuring out who the vendors would be. I mean, who the food trucks. One of the considerations is not having people who sell the same type of food. So you don't want to have everybody selling Polish boys. You don't want to have everybody selling.
But
so
the city will be over this, right?
The city is over this. But what we want, and I think from our side, is that we would want our board members and people to be present, so that if community people come up there, they can have an opportunity to conversate. And say, this board member, just an opportunity for community to interact with the elected officials. That's how I see it from our part, that if you guys can come up there for an hour, hour and a half. As people buy food, they can talk to you guys and ask questions. It's a public engagement opportunity for us. And then the last announcement is, I just want to announce that we are going back to our kindergarten boost camp. Before COVID, we did a kindergarten boost camp in partnership with the library. So basically what we did was we took kids that was in their kindergarten and kind of gave them a 2-week, like pre-kindergarten, where, you teach them how to come into school, you teach them, letters, you teach them things so that when they start kindergarten, they're not behind. This focus is for kids who didn't go to preschool or any daycare. So these are kids that's coming straight from like grandma's house or their mom is watching, and they never been in school before. So one of the things that we found is a big transition, that when kids never been in school and then they go to school, that's rough, because you used to do whatever you want to do. So it takes weeks to get kids out of that. Especially you live with my grandmother. My mother used to let you eat whenever you want to, walk around whenever you want to, sleep. So just trying to get the kids. So we will have a teacher there also in the library will also have staff member there.
So Mr. John, do we have something already in place to identify those students?
I believe so. A lot of this is working with the Sparks program. So the Sparks program is the program that we have that already engages kids that don't go to daycares and preschools where they go take books to them. So I got kind of, but those are kids identified with siblings already that go to our schools. And then they're working with the library because a lot of people come to the library. So those are just things I wanted to announce. And also, our scores did come back. I will review that one too. Shannon's not here, and I wasn't able to get it. Not to say, from what I saw, we didn't go up drastically, but we didn't go down drastically either. We didn't probably about the same place. We waiting on the value added data to come back, which might push us above where we were last year. We're at 17 stars, and I think we probably gonna be at 18. That's what we estimate.
Okay, so we went up.
It's incomplete. The data's not all in. We're waiting on the value added data. So, and then we waiting on them to clean up the early childhood data. Once we get real final data, we'll come and present. It'll probably be in July. We'll know exactly where we are.
Did they change the dates? Didn't that used to come later in the
It used to come like September, but they're getting the data back earlier now.
Okay.
So we're in the process of just, because we got kids testing in the summertime. So getting those kids tested, updated data, and then we'll come back with the information. But we didn't go down. I can say that. I mean, in some areas, you know, when you're looking at different grade levels, some, you know, the fluctuation between grade levels exists. But the culmination of it, we didn't. So we'll have that information on our next meeting. So at this time, I want to bring up Doug and Sean to give a construction update. Just to give some history, I know that the board was aware that I did send an email to Sean and the team about my concerns. I will be pleased to announce today that I did do a walkthrough, and it's significant progress. I appreciate Sean and the work that his team is doing. We were concerned, and we still have some concerns about the readiness of possibly the middle school due to some egress situations. So we will have a contingency plan in the event that we can't get the middle school in there the first week or month or something. Possibility the middle school might not make it the first month. Possibility. I know Sean is working hard to get them in there. But I wanted to make you aware because we're going to talk this through the next few weeks. And then we make a decision. And then if the decision that the middle school have to stay at John Dewey a little extended time, and we want to give people proper notice that that's a possibility. But I will say today that it's a possibility. Sean has said they're going to work hard to let us get in there to start. But I do want to just publicly state there's a possibility, I don't want to say remote, there's a possibility the middle school might have a delayed entry to the new building. And that's because of fire hazards and some things that they're working on trying to resolve. The city is actively involved, Ben Brown and the fire department, so they will be working closely with the team to do everything they can to get the middle school in here. But if it's not safe, then it won't happen. But it will happen as soon as we can. I don't think I will wait as soon as you tell me we could go, then we'll go. I mean, I wouldn't wait till holidays and things like that because we've moved before. And it just takes 3-4 days. But the weekend we can do it. Yes, ma'am.
How long is it going to be?
So that's a good question, Sean. So I know right now the rec is going to be closed until further notice while they're doing the demo of the gym area. Okay. I do know that it'll be available to our teams after that, but the full opening of the rec we will have to.
Yeah, I'm actually putting together an overall, I'll just say summary with dates that can be used. You asked for something that can be issued to everybody. So from a community basis, it'll be a phased opening due to the fact of the demolition process that's going on. Is there's a big safety factor with the public being in those areas. But right now we had to do some separations on fire alarm and sprinkler system for life safety from the existing school because they were tied into the existing school. We didn't realize that, didn't know that. We made those changes and we're making the temporary access to be able to get in so the students can get back in and utilize the facility. We know the athletic department has made very strong overtones so it's that they need a place for the kids to be. So I'm looking at probably in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have that temporary access that they'll be able to utilize the back entry of the rec center. We'll have our life safety components in there. We'll have our separation from the existing rec center, from the existing school done, which is critical because there's unknowns there. And we're now just exposing those, and we don't want anybody near those two facilities if something happened in regards of structural issues. So I call it very much a surgery process is going on right now, a delicate surgery process to open that up. And then once we see that it can be separated easily, access. But I'm looking for the students to be back in there. You know, I was hoping within a week after looking at it and looking at things, it's probably a 2-week time period from today before I can get the students back in on the back access. And as Doug and I will walk through with the overall project, we're looking at, you have a new entrance to that rec center. So we're going to have another entrance that's going to be on the west side that will be available when school opens. So at the end of August and the 1st of September, we will have pretty much complete access to the rec center for the school district when school starts. And we will barricade off the entrance, the new front entrance that we have to create. Now, we have to demo the whole building, get the debris removed. Then I got civil work. I got to do underground storm work that goes in, that ties in the storm for the new building. The design of the storm system and the retention system goes right under the existing school and right in front of the rec center. That's deep work. I get that in. I get the base done. Then I start on the new entrance. It'll probably take us to the end of November to complete the new entrance when we complete all the site work when it's supposed to be done at the end of November of this year. So I'll be publishing 3-phase openings. There'll be a temporary opening that'll be within 2 weeks for the students, use of the weight room and for the gym, and then we'll have an opening that will be on the west side over permanent doors that are there, so you can use it for the complete school year and have pretty much full access to it, except the entrance that will barricade, and then the new front entrance with the new facade will be done by November. So it'll be 100% complete by the end of November, along with the rest of the site work.
So the community will enter the rec center from the west. Is that what you're telling me?
For the community on phase 1, they'll enter it from the north on the back of the back of it. So we'll have maps that I'll be able to provide Barbara that'll show it. Within the next 24 hours, and I've jumped the gun a little bit, and it's probably not in the proposal. I don't know if you have something in there that I.
Well, you can go forward.
I will jump.
And you can just stop there. There's the aerial.
Yeah.
and so if you just kind of look
Right.
the lower right hand corner is the rec center.
Oh,
Okay. And then there's a link that you can see that goes to the new high school. You can see the blue entrance to the high school. So what Sean's talking about is the first phase for the athletes to have access, after the demolition is, the safety part of the demolition is behind us, they're going to be coming in on the north. It's kind of off the page. There's a picture there. But then the next phase, we're going to have to get access with the sidewalk, with ADA accessible, safe route to get to. Right now, for the athletes, we have gravel down, so they're going to be walking kind of next to the fence and then getting into the building so that we can get them in right away.
Oh, okay. One more question, Mr. Jarvis. Just in case, and I don't know how we're going to do that. The middle school right now has moved their stuff where?
So the middle school stuff is still at John Dewey.
So
We did not move it.
Oh, okay. So they're kind of going to stay put until
We get to go ahead.
Okay.
I do want to say, I know our seniors like to walk. We were just talking about this today. The stadium is open, which it should be by the end of August. We could open the stadium up like it used to be for our seniors to walk the stadium. Because when we had our stadium, people used to come out and walk around the track. So I think that would be something that we could make available before, if the rec center is not available, we could figure out a way to get the stadium available. Because it'll be in our possession. We just have to have somebody open it and they'll be able to walk it.
So my only question, if I'm hearing you correctly, we won't have full access to the rec center until November?
No, you'll have full access to it. You will not be able to go into your front door until the end of November.
Okay.
So you will have, in 2 weeks, you will have access to your facility.
So all the work
so-
that's being done under the building, we will be safe being in that building while that work is
That
being
is
done?
correct, and that's why we had a little bit of the delay because of the safety factor that we had. We were really pushing the envelope, and that's why I had the phase completions that I described. So it's driven strictly by safety, but those dates are factored in that we will be safe when you occupy the facility. I will not allow you to. I can't sleep at night if somebody can't access the building in that regard. So.
Well, we're gonna have a new entrance foyer on the rec center. So as they're building that, they're gonna build a temporary construction barricade inside. So the reception desk will stay, but then there'll be a wall in front of the reception desk towards the current entrance. So then as we come into the rec, you can walk by the reception desk, use the natatorium, use the gym, while they're actually building the exterior new entry.
Okay.
And with that, it's going to be curtain wall, glass, metal panel, all the things that have long lead times that are causing us some issues with the stair on the middle school. Okay. And we can get into a more detailed presentation of that, next time if we explain it. But, and then if I could, while we're looking at this, because I think this is kind of a good orientation. If we look at kind of the aerial view, as Mr. Jolly mentioned, this is a stressful time, right? It's exciting, but construction's always stressful. And so the way we deal with the stress is we talk, we put plans together, we have plans and plans. What happens, all the if-then scenarios, and then they all change, and Sean kind of moves through them anyway. So we always knew that the stair at the middle school, it basically is being constructed where the existing high school's loading dock was. So that's why we had requested, and the district turned over the loading dock to us early, so that we could start that demolition. And as that demolition happens, then they can go ahead, they can start doing some of the work. They have to get field measurements. They have to go ahead, get a design, the structure, basically it's designed, but it has to go through the shop drawing process. And then the curtain wall has to be manufactured. The metal panels have to be manufactured. So even though it's small, it's a long kind of process. So we started that early. And as we're seeing what the lead times are, we know we're going to be close. So that's why we're meeting with the city, we're meeting with the fire department, the lieutenant, we're walking through our plans, because if this isn't complete, then what that means is that entrance isn't going to be accessible. So the rest of the building, we've been pushing. Infinity has been getting done. I have a ton of photographs tonight to show you so that you can see the actual progress that's there, and we can talk to it. So we're kind of coming down to that stair. So we're already starting to have those communications. Now with the high school, we're going to have all the life safety for middle school and the high school. We have the life safety, the fire suppression, fire alarms, enunciation, all of that stuff's going to be in place. We're going to have the exit doors so that everybody can get in and get out of the building, except for that stair. We're still going to be working on that stair. So that's why we're starting to meet with the city, because they have the authority to say, sorry, it's not up to any of us. It's them that have the authority. And that's why we have a contingency plan to say, okay, well, if it falls back a week and then we can't get that occupancy, what do we do? Right now, middle school students are in John Dewey. We can continue to educate them there and everything else without the disruption. Okay. So there's no request tonight, and that was about the worst news that you're going to hear. The rest of it, I think, is all good news. And so what we're doing is just as the same plan. Infinity has started with the academic wing, third floor, second floor, first floor. Then they're flowing through to the athletics, to the auditorium, to the student dining, the gymnasiums, then into the middle school, and then back towards the science. So our progress, now we're starting to complete all those areas, and you'll see photographs of how far they are. and we're still at the science wing, we're still a couple weeks out, okay? But we have the progress going on. So now what we start to do is we start to identify our punch list. We have our commissioning, so our commissioning agents going through, putting together detailed reports. Those are all getting coordinated, and we'll start walking through with Moody Nolan, our architect, so we can start punching out these areas. So Infinity says, we're done. They put their list together. They say, we're done except for these items. And then we walk through as a district and with the architect and their engineers and say, okay, well, we got to add all these things.
So quick question with the commissioning. The issues that we are having with the elementary school, are we going to pay much closer attention to that during the commissioning process to ensure that we do not have those issues again in the high school and middle school?
Yes, and if you want to explain how the commissioning process on your end.
I would love to, because I think we need to all collectively as a team focus on that, is because there's three entities: the design, construction, and the operation of the facility. We all have to be on the same page, and we're not, and we're going to get there. But the commissioning side and Osborne, you have a commissioning agent, Four Seasons, different than Osborne was. No different. They do the detail and such that we had, but we have set up, and they've been engaged very early on in the process. So we've had them out here and done numerous inspections, reports issued, follow-up reports documented through the process. So we're ensuring from the construction side that we're building it for what the design documents indicate. Design I don't control, but I build it for what they indicate. And we've always put attention to that, but since we've had the issues, and we'll address when the appropriate time is on PK5, because we definitely are going to be engaged as we continue to go through this process. But there's been a lot more focus to ensure the review on that side from all parties that have engaged, and I feel very confident that from the systems basis that where we're at, we have a majority of those reports have been reviewed. Any what they call punch list items have been addressed, and they're very minimal at this point. I think what will be very important is that when we get to the training phase and we have that scheduled and we get the appropriate people in for the training, but I think it should go beyond simple training, because we're dealing with 21st century technology. Right. I don't care how smart you are. These equipment, the buildings, the building management system, it's up there. So how you train your staff, how you might look to bring in somebody to assist with that when you go from a maintenance basis, and that's afterwards. But I would say during this phase, I'm going to spend a lot more time and effort on this, because I pulled off at PK5 at the end to work on the new school because we started the estimating process. Well, now you got my attention, so I will be engaged through that process. Excuse you. So, what I want to say is that I feel very strongly for what's transpired, that it's getting done, and that the next phases are going to be critical, because we have the design team and the third party that's verifying from construction and design that we're doing it for the design documents is being verified. Okay, we're checking the box on 2 items. Now it's that transition from maintenance and then operation of the facility. We have to do a better job to ensure that we get the information, and the training is available, and then if there is additional training that needs to be incorporated, we're going to recommend that to the board, and that you implement that as we go forward. But I put a lot more effort into it, and I think it's behind us. The mechanical rooms are beautiful. The systems that are in there are up and running. We've already had them running for a couple months now, so we're already tweaking them in regards of, because we got the building closed, so I've got air on. So we're testing all those as we go through. So we'll be engaged through that, and I'm looking for the board and through the representatives of the board and the school district to be engaged as we go through that process. And that's why you have the warranty period, you have the 1-year period, and that's where if there's something that does come up, it's got to be brought to the attention of us, the manufacturer, so that the protocol steps are properly followed. And we fell off the wheels fell off the bus collectively as we went through this. So we're going to be engaged through it.
Okay.
But I feel very confident in what the systems are. But it's a big building. There's a lot of systems, and we're 21st century technology. It is not something easy that the maintenance person of the 70s or 80s or 90s can just pick up. I have a hard time understanding it, and I take the time and I see it every day and understand the language, but to maintain that and operate it, it takes a skill.
So with that point being made, is it your recommendation that we would need to have somebody in place that will be able to manage 21st century technology?
I would highly recommend that the district look for somebody in that has that capability, that's out in the market, that would be an employee of the district. Yes.
Okay.
So you saying somebody that simply manages the systems of the building?
Correct. And understands the systems from a basis of that you want. When I describe a maintenance plan, you have a pick any item like a boiler. We have the boiler issues that we have a follow-up that we're going to get the heat exchangers addressed. But they have weekly inspections that should be done and documented, monthly inspections, quarterly, yearly, that tell you to do certain things, and that if there's something happens and there's a different flow, you just don't get the reset. You got to go to the manual and you got to look at certain components. Someone that understands that, and that's not simple. That is in no way based on the people that you have. You got good people, but it's the expertise that needs to be added at that level.
I have one more question. So I know when I've been in there, and I'm trying to remember. I know where the big rooms are. What is the connectivity? So if something goes down in the high school, will it impact the middle school, or are the two systems separate?
From mechanical systems, they're separate systems. Your technology is tied together on the monitoring of that under one system that'll be out of the middle school, but each system is still separate systems that are individual and not tied together. But technology from internet and software connects things, so you can look from one location if you got a problem in the high school versus the middle school, and it's the heating system versus cooling or domestic water or whatever the case may be. You have electrical. There's 8, 10, 12, 15 different systems that you would have per building that aren't tied to each other.
We do have one boiler room that's in the middle school. It's closer to the connection, so that feeds both schools, but then all the different air handlers throughout the building.
Right. Well, like simple as that is the boilers. The boilers feed the whole school, and they're in the middle school, and they tie to it. So, but that system is heating, and that's a separate system, from air conditioning or cooling, and airflow. So there's a difference.
Okay, thank you.
And from a design basis, it makes the most sense economically, and it's the right way to do it.
Okay. I think you have a question.
So yeah, kind of spinning off of what
Sure.
Tracy was asking. So are you saying we would have to hire somebody new because we've got this new building?
I would recommend that because of the size of the building, the amount of the systems, looking at the staff that you have. I think that the one additional training would be a requirement. That could be something that you could look at, or hiring somebody that understands the overall management of the schools and the varying systems from a maintenance basis.
How difficult is it to find someone that's that special?
I would actually, Mayor Sellers is on there is the convention center, and I don't think I know the name of the board. It's the convention. It's on the board for the maintenance of the convention center. So the county has a complete maintenance staff and for the whole um, 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 convocation center downtown that has there. So he might know some contacts through the county for folks that would be available or might be available, or through schooling that might be available to bring on and supplement your staff. I don't know the full dynamics of if it's one in my recommendation, if you can find the individual, but as you indicate, they're hard to find, out there across the board. I mean, it's hard to find good people, period, today.
But we could, go ahead.
Yeah.
We could contract somebody that would not have to sit on our payroll, but we would
You
absorb
could.
all
You
of the payroll.
You could.
They would not
There's
have to be
probably
full time.
companies out there, as Sean's talking about, that they basically do preventative maintenance for different entities.
I remember, I don't know, when you were here before, remember they had that guy, Eric? He kind of did this. This was his job.
We
Working
had
in-
someone specifically.
Yeah, he handled all the HVAC and all that. Then if it got extreme, then it would call somebody else.
So maybe, like you were saying, contracting, I was gonna use the word consultant.
Yes, there is.
Maybe not necessarily.
There's firms that will do that.
But before we hire someone, would there be someone that can train our staff that could implement whatever problem? We need,
Like now.
right, yeah, now, you talking about the board. Your people can't train those, our people?
Training is part of the project, so we do have training in the project,
Okay,
and so that is part, and we actually have started to put together the schedule so that we can go ahead and we can get it on the calendars as to who's going to come and the training. So the trade contractor that's providing the equipment or the manufacturer, they'll come in and they do train the district.
no.
I think Sean's just talking about a step further of, because even when you're trained, even if we record the training and stuff like that, it's,
It's an 8-hour training, or it's a 2-day training, or it's a 3-day training. How much you absorb in that session, and then you get into real life situations that you want somebody to come back to, and that's where you don't have that support, and it's not defined contractually to have that support. So that's the ability as you move forward. We will do the training as indicated, but it's limited, because it's like I described in the hours that are there.
I have a question for your expert advice, expertise. Is that a full-time, 40-hour week job?
My mind, it is based on the 2 facilities you have, and there's enough. I think the state has a software program that they developed in regards of taking the commissioning, what they call each asset. I don't want to bore you with the detail, but an asset could be a boiler, it could be an air hand, or it could be a sink. And they put it all in a database based on the operating system or the maintenance manuals that says on this date you need to go check the valves, the flush valves on every urinal and every toilet, and then you got to document it. So if there's an issue that comes up, you've got documentation from a warranty basis to go back to the manufacturer based on whatever that stated warranty is. So there is the ability to supplement that with a full-time person, but based on the size of the facility you have, the 21st century technology, it's a beautiful facility, and I still think PK5 is, and I'm here to help correct that, but I think you do at the end of the day. And that's a recommendation I would
I have another question. So with all of the maintenance documentation, to ensure that we are doing it, are there software programs that will allow for us to input that information and generate the proper reports to prove that we
Yes.
were doing? Okay.
Yeah. And I think the state has one, and I didn't have time to get into it. I asked the commissioning agents from Osborne, and I asked Four Seasons on those next steps, because they're responsible to take all the information from the commissioning side through the 1-year warranty have that documented, all gets put in that software, and I think that software is available to the districts, but
Preventative maintenance.
the preventative maintenance, and then I don't know the nuances from there. I just, at that
And
point,
it's
I'm usually
provided
building
by the
something else.
OFCC. For the elementary, we'll have one for the-
Right, but it takes them a year or two
Probably a
after,
year
you know, so there's that gap between your warranty period and that year that we gotta have some systems in place so that we can manage that process as we go through that.
And I ask one final question. Did we need someone like this at the elementary school?
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is that was a missed opportunity.
And I agree. And I think to the point Sean made, everybody dropped the ball. That's what it sounds like to me. And in dropping the ball, you guys missed making sure things were already in place. Because if the software was available from the OFCC, to Mimi's point, we should have had it for the elementary school, and we didn't. And I know in all the meetings that we've been in and the updates you guys have given us, and this isn't to berate, this is just to make sure we do not have what happened in the elementary school happen over here. We got to make sure all our I's are dotted, our T's are crossed, the J's are curved, and the Q's are curled the other way. Because we cannot take kids out of school anymore because of problems that happened, and I won't say happened during construction, but because things weren't conveyed to us for us to know what we needed to do from a maintenance perspective to ensure the smooth running. Because we know these buildings are high tech, we know they're 21st century facility. We built them with that in mind. So, you know, it was horrible that happened, but it was a good lesson for all of us. So we're asking questions now to make sure that we do not have repeat situations as to what we had in the elementary school.
So also with the elementary school, we did hire Milky for a service contract. Before that, we hired Milky. We did hire Milky.
So, but what?
It was $25,000 a year.
But you just did filter change. You did a very limited maintenance agreement with them, so they were only focused on changing the filters and the air handlers. Only one system. You got, I mean, I could think of 15 systems I could probably knock off that need maintenance and follow through. So, and to your point, I agree 100% with you, and that's why we're staying with it, and I'm going to be engaged with it. You're going to take me right to my retirement date.
Sure.
Yep.
Right there, I'm going to be right with you, Chris.
Absolutely.
So,
Your partial
my
retirement.
partial retirement date. So in 44 years, I make sure that the clients I work for, you're satisfied at the end. And we have bumps in the road. It's construction. I mean, if this was easy, there'd be a lot of different people doing it, not me.
Correct.
So, but I enjoy that. But I'm sorry we got off on a tangent,
It's
but I'm
okay.
glad we did a little bit there because I'm excited about where we're at and where I think we're going to go. And we'll talk through that, you know, Doug, if you want to lead the way. But, you know, on that, if there's any other questions, because I do want to comment on Don's earlier comment on the occupancy, because I still have in my mind a plan, you know, so, but I do appreciate that we have to have contingencies as we go forward in life, so.
If you want to go to the next slide, you can actually, we have some dates. So this temporary occupancy plan, what we're looking at is July 21st. And then once that happens, then kind of thinking about the district move in a little bit different, where we can then start with operations to move in. So then we can go ahead and get food service to move in, we can get custodial to move in, we can get administration, we can get technology. So some of these groups that are going to take more time, we can get them in earlier. And then that also, because then that gives you almost 6 to 7 weeks, you know, before we actually open school to have those different groups in the building. At that time, we'll still be doing punch list items, we'll still have contractors in work, but then it's also going to give us some more time to see things. You know, we'll put together a punch list, but when you don't see everything until someone is in there that's going to be using the space, then they're going to see things. And so if they can get some of those groups in a little bit earlier to look at, then you can kind of get those on the list to get taken care of. And then this was slated for August 14th to start the move in and start school September 5th. The site demolition has started, and I think it's going to come down quick. They started the abatement, as soon as you guys had the auction, the last truck went out. The next morning, Mr. Jolly turned over the keys, and they started their abatement so that they can go ahead, and then they're kind of eating the building away from the wreck over so that we can go ahead and get to the site work that has to be done. Okay, so there's a process with that. The parking lot, as Sean mentioned, so when we get into the building, we're going to have a construction fence that's going to be built, and we'll be able to get away from the building and go to the north parking lot. But then Sean's still going to be working on the drive, parking lots, landscaping, finishing those things up. The entrance for the rec center is going to be finished up. Okay, and then we're thinking that's going to kind of wrap up around November. Well, we have the loop roads in place, almost the entire loop road. We found some unsuitable soils that's getting taken care of so that they can go ahead. We're going to finish the loop road. As you've driven by, I'm sure you can see the progress for the baseball field, the softball field, the visitor or the parking lot that's going to be over on Warrensville. That's going in. The service road or the district or the emergency fire road, that's going in. Sean has the plans. We got a building that's going to be built by the stadium for storage, for district storage, for exterior equipment, and for athletic storage. So that's going to start going up. That's going to follow a little bit later. But there's a plan in place to get that in place. The field, you'll see some photographs, but that's pretty much on schedule. We had a little hiccup, but they're starting on doing the base of the turf now. Bleachers are all in, press boxes in, light poles are going up.
Field lights will be going up next week. Goalposts will go up next week. We started on the field itself. So right after the holiday, you'll see the field turf will be brought in. We'll roll it out, start sewing it, start putting it in place. And
next slide, please. And then really the big pieces that we have left, the additional request, is the John Dewey demolition. And so as we're looking at that, we're going to be bidding that and kind of looking at the demolition trades. We know that just with the market, the demolition high school was higher than what we had expected, and it's still really busy right now. Coordinating with the school, with the usage of John Dewey and everything, we're going to be sending that out in the fall so that in the winter, maybe November, December, we can actually do the demolition of that school. That way we can keep all the athletes using those fields now. We don't have to worry about trying to coordinate construction traffic and parking and everything else.
Do you think some of the demolition costs might lessen a little bit in the fall?
I think I can't make a prediction.
I mean, I know you can't, but I know this is a busy season.
Part of what they were saying was that the state had released all these funds for abatement, and I gotta believe that that's gotta start whittling down,
We think we have a better opportunity for better numbers by waiting for fall. If I bid it now, it's going to be high.
Okay,
So
that's all I was asking.
So that was critical, along with everything else.
I wasn't asking for promises. I was just asking what your opinion was. We've been doing this longer than we have.
So you're saying that we should be in the stadium by August 4th?
Well, right now, your first football game is August 25th.
Right.
I'm probably close to that. I'm probably August 14th, frankly, as I looked at the schedule just before I came over here, because last week we had all heavy rains and I lost a week because I couldn't get on areas because it was too soft. But my goal is that the game that will be played on August 25th, I see no issue with that. I'm trying to get it so at least 2 weeks in advance, I can at least get the students to be able to use their field before they play their first game. So that's where I really think it's gonna be at. And I didn't have a chance, as Doug put this together today, and I was looking at the schedule due to our rain events last week. They were heavy, and I couldn't get heavy equipment on the field because I would have torn everything up, so I had to let it dry. So, but that's the goal, as we go forward. Barbara, that I really plan on. We will be playing football on August 25th, and I told Mr. Don Jolly, my wife and I are going to be sitting next to him at the game because we are coming to this game. And but that's where I see it right now.
And the turf will be ready.
Turf will be ready.
Okay.
Turf will be ready sooner. Turf will be ready come probably the end of July. But it's the infrastructure around it and everything else, so I can get to the field.
Okay.
So let me ask you this: on August 15th, will we be able to have like a ceremony opening the stadium?
And construction everywhere else around it. Is that what you like to do? Because
Yeah,
that's
okay,
basically what you have. We can do that.
Have people,
Yeah.
if the parking lot is available.
Can I get back to you on that date? I didn't look at that because I want to make sure that north parking lot, which I'm striving for the end of July, I have that redone and ready. So I think that's a good possibility, Don.
Yeah, basically we just want to do a ribbon cutting or something.
Yep.
Just to open it up before the first game.
Can I go back and look at some things and verify that?
Yep.
But I think we can on that, but I just want to double check a couple dates. So you'll gladly remind me tomorrow when we talk. So August 15th is there.
No, it's August 19th.
Pardon me?
August 19th.
19th
Yeah, that's August 19th is the day.
would be the event. Okay, I thought you said 15. 19.
It's the 19th. We'll just check the list.
Yes. To answer your question, yes.
The track does need to cure, so we're still tracking when that goes down. You need 20.
Yeah. Well, right
20
now,
days to cure.
it looks like with the track surface, I'll have asphalt around it. You will not have a track surface for the August 25th game. We got delayed with the rains and the concrete. I got to let the asphalt cure for 20 days before I can put the track surface on it because it won't adhere long term. So we'll have a hard asphalt surface go on. It just won't have the track and the back, but you'll be able to walk on it. It's just not going to have the lines, the finished surface, and everything for the track. But you'll be able to play a game on it and walk on. The band will be able to march right out there on that track and right onto the field. So.
All right.
So here's what we're looking like as of yesterday. The high school entrance, the community entrance, and the middle school. It is progressing along. There is pretty much one of the things that you can really see that's missing is metal panels. They have the coils. We're trying to coordinate getting those installed. Sean has a plan for that. And if we go to the next slide, what I tried to do was put together. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. There is the bleachers. You can see the press box. The fences are going around. And I didn't really have a good picture of the softball and baseball fields, but it's all progressing pretty good.
You can see them really good from Warrensville Center.
Yeah. It's hard not to keep your eyes on the road, right? Next slide, please. So this is basically first, second, third floor, and I tried to show what an extended learning area looks like on the left side and kind of a classroom space on the right. And from a finish standpoint, we pretty much have finishes in. The furniture is all getting unpacked. A lot of the furniture on the first floor is actually middle school furniture, so it's good that we have a lot of that. And really, the work remaining is we got some doors, we got some hardware that we got to put in some of the doors. Once they get the furniture, we can go ahead. They can do their final cleaning. We can schedule our punch list.
We're going to start final cleaning tomorrow on level 3. We're gonna work our way down, and we're looking by the end of the month that the high school would be quote unquote ready for architectural punch list, and could be moved in, but we got to go through that process and get the punch list done. So it'll be ready come the end of the month for punch list, and then we'll get that complete and schedule in regards to the temporary C of O.
So I did a similar thing. This is the administration. Pretty much both the administration areas are almost complete, probably 90-95% complete. So you can see what the high school looks like below and the middle school above. So the middle school and some of these places have actually caught up to the high school, getting close. But you can start to see the furniture and the finishes that we have in there. A lot of the floors put temporary protection on them, or Infinity puts temporary protection on them. So when those come up, you'll have your final coat of paint, and those rooms will be pretty much ready for punch. And next slide, please. So this I wanted to, the picture on the left is actually if you're coming out of the administration area and then you're looking towards the entrance for the high school. So on the right side is the auditorium, and if you went through the left-hand doors, you're going out towards the right side. So you can start to see all the ceilings are going in, and right now they're working on the flooring that's kind of coming towards this area. And then the picture on the right is actually when you first come into the high school entrance. This picture is I'm still standing in the foyer. So this is kind of where your security would be. You're to the right, you can see the administration reception area. And then if you went straight in, you can go to the high school. All right. And this is a picture of the high school student dining. So the floors are going in, and then you have more detailed work on the column enclosures, some doors.
There's your community entrance, your high school dining.
That's the restaurant on the right.
Is the restaurant on the
Tiger Cafe.
This is what the food service looks like. So we have the equipment in there, and they're doing their tie-ins. And then as we get into temporary occupancy, then we can go ahead and bring food service in to actually start, stocking it, loading it up. And so these are the music spaces in the high school. These again, the flooring for the choir is going in today as we were walking through. But the rest of the finishes are pretty much in. The acoustical, we got the speakers in. Everything above the ceiling is all done. Got acoustical panels on the walls, I think, in a lot of them. Yep. This is the auditorium. So you can really see and really work remaining in the auditorium.
I got front of stage and carpet runners down the center, and I got a projection screen going.
So it's 518 seats.
It's more.
Yeah, 518.
It's beautiful. You can't wait for you to see it.
Yeah, and you see the
stunning.
detail on the inside of those
That
ribs.
picture doesn't give it any justice.
It's gold. That's right. Inside those ribs, it's gold. And those, if you see those, like on the left side and the right side, you see where the like X's are. Can you turn that down real quick? It's like gold.
Yeah, the reveals.
Yeah. One more, back to the auditorium. You see on the left side and the right side where you see those. It's gold inside of those.
Oh, wow.
Like highlight, you can see.
So our enrollment like for middle school and high school, will each, like all middle school students fit in here?
All middle school students will fit in there. I think the high school will too. We have so many kids, they like go to Tri-C and all the other places. They'll be up there. We always could go across the street to the central, to the church. That'll fit everybody.
All right. Next slide, please. This is the multi-purpose wrestling room. And that has the movable
wall.
partition so it can separate into the two rooms. We have the sound systems are all in place there, and really you don't have very much work. Glass
Glass and
glass.
vinyl clean.
And this wrestling room for all the wrestlers is double the size of the wrestling room at the old high school. That was one of the concerns of all our wrestling alumni, that they were going to get a small little room, and they have a big double the size of the previous room. I mean, if we include that wall, it's like triple the size. So, but there is a removable wall in there that we can use one half for wrestling and the other half for dance or whatever else. So the whole room doesn't have to be dedicated to wrestling. But the side that is dedicated to wrestling is double the size of what they currently have or had.
And then to the right is the locker rooms. And then those are the showers and the bathrooms inside the locker rooms. Pretty much all the locker rooms are pretty far along except for the varsity boys, because that's storage room for all the hardware. So we have the lockers, and so as the hardware goes into the building, the doors and everything, eventually they'll move in there.
Yeah, we had a delay in getting the wood doors finished for the middle school and the entry area that we saw at the high school, and they're shipped this week, and we're going to get them on Monday. So we get the doors installed. What's in the boys' locker room is all the hardware for all the doors. It took us a week to break them apart, so you have which door goes to what and everything else, and it's not something you can just pick up and move and not lose time. So we got the lockers and scattered in other areas in the space, and then when we get the doors next week, we'll push to get the hardware in and the doors hung, and then I can clean it out and put the lockers in the room. So part of what we deal with is real estate, where you can store materials. You want materials. In today's world, I want everything that I can get. We got it on site, and it made it difficult for us because we had to move things around, and then you get to a certain point where you got to finish spaces to put them in. So that was part of our struggle, for that. But we're real close in that regard.
Next slide, please. You guys have seen these before, but now this starts to see some of the storage Sean was just talking about.
Right. Yeah, I'm using the middle school gym, and we protect the floor. I needed places for my crews to put their tools, and I can't put it on a finished space, so I had to finish the space, and that's what we used the middle school gym for a staging area. In the next 3 to 4 weeks, that'll minimize. As we get things done, I can get trades to get gang boxes and tools and supplies off the site.
So I want to add with the high school gym, we are changing the colors of the bleachers. If you look, you can see that WHSS is like an orange color. It's not yellow. It's like but it was it wasn't custom, but it was like a
manufactured
color. Yeah. So it'll be changed to white. Like our current high schools is white. So, and then also we'll be adding two rows of bleachers to the visitor side. Currently it's only 6 rows, and we'll be adding 2 more to make 8. Shire shift to that, I'll be done between August 8th and August 18th. So when the school is open, we'll have everything ready. Also, that scoreboard, we'll be putting a cap on the bottom of it. Right now it's just open. So it'll be a cap on the bottom with our logo. And then we'll have 2 scoreboards on either side of the gym. So it'll be a scoreboard on both of the ends of the gym. That'll be added. And also some graphics is going in there, like tigers. Graphics will be on, I think, 3 or 4 walls. And I think they're coordinating that with Sean and his team. Also, the middle school gym gets graphics too. Like if you walk to our elementary school gym, you see sands on the wall and so forth. So we added some of those into this gym also. Not sands, we just got tigers on the wall. We didn't put any sands on the walls in this gym.
And those bands that you see on the walls, on the top, those are actually acoustical panels.
Those are whom?
Acoustical panels.
Wait to hear the sound system.
Okay.
Impressive.
So now we're in the middle school, so we can see the progress. And again, as they're working on the middle school, they're going from the second floor down to the first floor, and then into the existing science station. So these are in the new construction area. You can see the progress is actually getting the finishes in. And then on the first floor, a little further behind, but we got the finishes that are going. And then the next slide takes us to the science, the existing science. Yeah. And so in here, they're putting up the ceilings. Once they have the ceilings in, then they can go ahead and tie in the lights, the mechanical, all the speakers, the other finishes to work their way out of the building. All right. I think that was the last slide that we have. And if you have any further questions,
Every day I make sure I take 5 extra breaths, as I go through. Probably our biggest challenge is our egress, and that's as Don was describing earlier. Our concern is that this, I call it stair 7, and the egress out of the east side of the existing science wing, and that's required by code for egress out there, but it ties into a sidewalk that ties into the front entrance, the bus loop, and everything else, and I can't get that in 100% till I demo the building, get it cleared out. So I'm really up against the end of, I consider time to be able to get a temporary and a permanent, not permanent C of O, but a temporary C of O. But we've laid out multiple plans with the city, and we're following up with them. We have another follow-up meeting, I'm hoping next week, with the fire marshal, the building commissioner, and Benjamin Brown himself, and we've been walking through, and we walked through these contingencies that we have. So, I feel confident that we can develop a plan that gets you the ability to occupy the middle school for the dates that we have, but I don't make that final call, and that becomes a life safety factor that they need to make. But one of the other aspects, you, Don, talk, okay, we don't move the middle school kids in because that's not available. It might also come down to another phase of that is I might be able to move in, but I might not have access to all the science labs due to the fact that I don't have that other egress in. So I would minimize the students that could be in the science wing, and that might have to be controlled in regards of temporary means of egress if there is a fire or something. So that's another side of the equation that we're evaluating, that we're looking at as we go forward, because I would really love to see us be able to move in the time periods that we talked about for middle school and high school, and then look at the contingency associated with the final use of the science wing, 100% or partial, as we go forward, as that other option besides 100% done or you can't move in.
Quick question. Is there a reason, I'm sure there is, that we started demolition on the north side of the building versus the south side of the building?
Most definitely. And it was a tough decision, but if I didn't get from the north to south, I needed to complete the storm system, because right now your new building does not have a storm system. It's under a temporary measure. So if there's rain events, I am temporarily disposing of the stormwater. I need, and that system runs on that north side of the site, right under the bus loop. So I have to complete that as part of my occupancy for the overall school, and that was more of a concern. High school first, then middle school is to get that component done first to ensure it gives me the ability to get most of the school. So that's what drove it, was the design of it.
Thank you.
If you've seen on the site the big orange
Mhm.
curves,
Mhm.
it actually will be put together to make tanks that go underground,
Oh.
and those will be under the parking lot, which is right now pretty much where the existing
building
gym
is.
is.
Okay.
So that's why that goes.
Thank you. I was just curious
Yeah.
because I knew that you needed that part down to finish
Right.
that wall there.
If I could twinkle my nose and make the demo go away, I was always thinking of that, but I don't have that tool in my arsenal.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions?
I don't have a need question, I just have a comment. As anxious and excited as I am about our new school, I just want it done right.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, that's all we want. You know. So I'm just gonna put my faith that you guys, like you just said, if the way you lead, I'm gonna make sure everything is right.
Amen.
And I'm gonna thank you.
Thank you. I will be there.
We're gonna hold you to that.
Got me through the end of the year. We'll get there. And they said I might be even longer. That's fine. We'll deal with it. Thank you very much
Thank you
for your
guys
time.
for a really
Thank you.
thorough update.
Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That was a good discussion. Thank you. We're gonna move right along to item 1.8, and Dr. Rock, we're gonna hand the mic over to you for the treasurer report.
Oh, good. Thank you, Jonathan. Okay. So this time of the year is the time where we have the year-end close. We're up to 46 funds, over 8,600 accounts. All of our funds have a positive ending cash balance. Year-end appropriations is for 6/30/2023. And the budget, what we're doing now is we're establishing a budget just to get us through the end of the year, the final days of the year. And the Ohio State Auditor requires our year-end appropriations in the last June board meeting, which is prior to June 30th. So they're like, you're doing a little bit of budgeting, but you're closing out the year still. Next slide. The year-end appropriations, and we do this every year, they cannot exceed the certified resources. So you have that document in the packet that I passed out, the blue packet, and that compares the two. Advances or loans to other funds where receipts are anticipated in the new fiscal year. So in other words, mostly with the state funds, they're based on a reimbursement style. So like our Title I, our ESSER funds, all of those, we spend the money first, and then we file for a reimbursement from the state, and then they give us the reimbursement. Operating transfers are where the general fund sends money to cover a negative balance for a fund without expected revenue. And those are the common ones for us here at the district is the recreation fund, the athletic fund, and then also we have the PI to maintenance fund that's required because of the CFAP program for our facilities. We're very lucky. A lot of other districts usually have food services where they have to operating transfer in for food services. So we're very lucky that we have a food services program that operates to the positive balance, and it's self-sufficient. So that's one operating transfer that we don't have to do. But a normal district, if you probably polled, probably 75% of the districts out there have an operating transfer go out to their food services. Next slide, please. Year-end advances. The advances this year, it's down to $3.3 million because we're ramping down from ESSER 3s. Happy to report that we put in our project cash requests at the very beginning of June, and we received the money from the ODE. And this is a big lump sum of money. I mean, it's approaching $11 million. We had $8.2 million of ESSER ARP funds that came in. So in other words, we were reimbursed $8.2 million on, and that's on that arm. It's $10.2 million. So we have a couple million left to go next year, which is within our projections for our 5-year forecast. And then other state funds is about $2.5 million. this is really good for us that I was real surprised that they turned it around that fast. We put in all the detail that was required, and that's probably what drove it to get us for us to get it fast. I know the system on how to do it, so we got it in, and it was good that they turned it around. So the receipt of those reimbursements, that decreases our need to make advances at the year end. So this really worked out. This was very favorable for us this year. Next slide, please. And the year-end operating transfers, recreation fund, we had operating transfer goes in there, but then we will be charging back for the collaboration agreement that we have with the communities. Also, the transfer to the 467 Wellness Fund. Historically, when the Wellness Fund first came out back in the pandemic, the state of Ohio and the governor said, put it in this specific fund, okay? So we put it in there and we've kept our spending in there. But now the wellness funds still come to us, but it comes to us through the state funding. So it goes into our general fund, the way that we receipt it now. So what we do is we make an operating transfer that transfers the money from the general fund to that fund. So in this way, we could still capture the history of how we spent on that wellness fund, whether it was on the new funding or the old funding. So this preserves that and memorializes that for us if we wanted to go back to analyze the programs or how we spent the money. And then the half mil, this is again is required by the CFAP program. Any facilities that are built, every district has to come up with a half of a mil. For us, that's about $190,000. And we have to transfer it from the PI fund, because that's where the PI levy that collects it. We have to transfer from there to the maintenance fund, which is 034. And by putting it in that 034 fund, that's for future maintenance of the new buildings. And we have to do that continuously until our bonds are paid off. So it's probably going to be about a 30-year process. And just to stop there real fast, these are the quick facts that I always try to throw out to the board. So if you add up all of our real estate value, where we get our real estate taxes from, okay, it's $400 million, okay. So $400 million, and it's really easy to figure out what 1 mil would bring in, because you just divide it by 1,000, so you take a few zeros off. So instead of 400 million is what the value is, so 1 mil will bring in $400,000. So if, and I'm glad we're not in that situation, if we were in a situation where we were calculating potentially like a new levy or something, well, that's how we would back into it. We would say, well, for every mil that we have, it brings in $400,000. So that's how you could see where a half a mil is. We're just below 400,000. That's 398. So that's why I was saying the half a mil is like $190,000 that gets transferred in. So that's like a nice quick fact for us to have as a board. And then transfer to the athletics. Happy to report that the athletics collected $93,000 this year, which is a nice chunk of change on a $143,000 budget. So, but still, we still need to transfer money into there to cover it, to make it sufficient. Okay, next slide. So the temporary appropriations, by doing these and approving these, it gives us an opportunity to spend money until the permanent appropriations are established September 30th. We do that every year, and those are estimates. Next slide. And these are the final thoughts. So we have another year spending within current resources. And I know this becomes old news, but this is the biggest news, the largest financial news for the district. 15 years of consecutive years of spending within current resources. This is where it becomes simple budgeting, and there's a lot of hard work behind that simple budgeting. Me and Mr. Jolly have to work very close together to make sure that we do spend within current resources. But by doing that, that protects us from having to go and that protects us from the other information on the prior slide where it said how much does 1 mil generate. Now we don't have to do those calculations because we're preventing the need for any future levies. So that is the biggest accomplishment for us, and we continue we're projecting that to go out even further. We're within the 5-year forecast projections on our year-end close, and just as earlier with the ultimate completion of the master facilities plan, I know we've been talking about phase two, but it was a master facilities plan that had 2 phases, and this is actually, we're on the springboard of completing that, which is phenomenal news for the district, and to have all new facilities for the whole school community. And the last one, I just want to say it's an exciting time for the district and a healthy well check from Dr. Rock. And that completes my section.
Thank you so much,
All right, thank
Dr.
you, Dr.
Rock.
Rock.
Were there any questions for it?
I just have a comment, Madam Chair. I just love when Dr. Rock giggles and smiles at me. I hope our finances for the district is good. But great work what you do, Dr. Rock.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on along. If I can please have a motion to approve by consensus, section 2, treasurer's report and financial recommendations. That's gonna be items 2.1 through 2.7.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item number 2 on our tonight's agenda, Treasury Report and Financial Recommendations, 2.1 through 2.7.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you both. Before we move to a vote, is there any additional conversation on this section? Hearing nothing, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on our agenda, if we can have a motion to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendation and presentations for board action administrative staff, and that's going to be item 3.1.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept item 3.1 under superintendent recommendations and presentations for board action administrative.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on this section?
Mr. Joey, how many, this person, Sabrina Dyson, is she assistant principal there?
She's assistant principal at the high school. Last year was her first year.
Oh, okay. All right. So for the elementary school, we have 2 or 1?
We have 2. So we had 3. Miss Irvin was elevated to the early childhood center. So she'll be at the early childhood center. We did not put an assistant principal there. It's only going to be about 150, 175 kids. If we need support, we will use a retired person to come in. But we don't need to hire a full-time assistant principal there. I do believe, like the beginning of the year, we might have a retired person come in and assist her. Day she off, we might have a retired person come in and run the center. But we don't need an assistant, this assistant principal for that. With us taking out 200 kids from the elementary school, we don't need to replace the elementary principal. It'll be 3 of them over there, about 700 kids. So that should be fine. We have culture coaches that'll be at the elementary school, so that's 2 more administrators that's there also. Also on this agenda, I do have something called a behavior health specialist job description. Again, that's something with our SEL that we're looking to bolster in the high school, especially looking at our 9th grade. What we see is some transition issues. And I don't know if it's COVID or not, but we see it between 8 and 9. So something is going on. So we're looking at realigning our guidance counselors. And really having with our buildings being in the same place. Possibly more likely, highly likely having Miss Taylor Clark do grades 8 and 9. So she with them in 8th grade, and since we're in the same building, she go with them in 9. And also trying to do the same thing between 5 and 6. We see those issues, and then it's behavioral health specialists using our health and wellness money. I know that South Euclid has a position like this, and it's basically like a youth coach. So I'll give more detail at the next meeting. We want to get the job description, but I'll give it to you. Ginn Academy has this. So what Ginn Academy has is they got 12 of them. So for every group of students, every group got a group of students that they follow around. all day long. This is how they, I know we couldn't afford to have this many people, but each group got like a coach that goes with them all around school. This prevents the kids from getting in trouble. This provides advocacy to teachers and all those things. That's how Ian does it. So for us, we want to try to model that at a small scale to see how it go. While we got some health and wellness money to try to create a type of position where we can identify. Now we got a culture coach. They deal with the whole school, but we identify a group of about 20 ninth graders. How to focus on them 20. Go to class with them. Go, be actively engaged with them, and see if we can save. Because what happens in ninth grade, they blow up their GPA by failing classes and messing up and digging themselves in a big hole. We've seen it. Now we want to try to do something proactive while we have the resources. Because as we, through attrition, we hired those people. We have not hired all those people back as they left. So we do have some leeway to try to do what's best for kids. And I think teachers have a role, the principals a role, but for our kids, it's an in-between that's missing. Like, I'll put it like this. We don't have Coach Walkers no more in our schools. We don't have Coach do plays. We don't have, those type of teachers that we had historically, who were coaches, teachers, mentors. So we have to supplement that in some way, because all of us right here, me, all of us, because some coaches and people were in the building who really cared and made sure we went to class. Now, just being blatantly honest, I think Mr. Roberts asked me about that. Like, who is our Mr. Walker? We don't have a Mr. Walker. We don't. We don't have Coach Duplay. So we got to create that in some aspect to have somebody in the school who's just student driven and caring and holding them accountable. So this is our attempt to do that until we can find us some more Coach Walkers. It's the type of leaders that we were all blessed to have when we went to the school. So searching around, looking at the GM model, looking at South Euclid model. This is what we came up with. So, and that's not part of this one. But people think APs can do that. It's very hard for an AP. And I see Miss Rice here, Dr. Rice. Dr. Rice was actually taught me how to do a scores and everything. Because when I was an AP, she was working with my school, which is Martin Luther King as a coach. And she showed me everything. She showed me everything, so I learned from her a lot. But she just from her experiences, the AP, it's very difficult for them to be that mentor when they got to hold people accountable all the time. It's very difficult.
Ms. Dodd, I also want to add, because I'm so impressed with the fact that Ms. Pleasant was nominated as for the Teacher of the Year.
Yes. Yeah.
I have known her for so long. I have admired her style of teaching, and I wish that we could have every teacher because she does such a fantastic job in educating our young people. That's my pet peeve.
Right.
You give them a good start, they'll be okay. I think in her class, she actually does give out to excellent stuff.
I think one of the also gifts of Miss Pleasant that whole kindergarten team was new, and she mentored all of those teachers. They were all young, just starting. I think that's one of our strongest teams in the district is kindergarten, and we attest that to her. Because she was on the ground, and she took some of their skills, them being young and knowing different things, but she gave them the old school. And our kids are being blessed by her and her work. And I'm very pleased that we were able to nominate her for that award. And she won. So, just a blessing. So I think she get $1,000 gift, $1,000 to spend in her class from the Martha Hogan Jennings Foundation.
Oh, very nice.
Can I interject real fast? I just wanted to take a time out to just tell you that and thank the board for this. This is the pure example of where you could see our advancement in how we finance the needs of the district and also our fiscally stewards. There's three things in action here, and that's why I wanted to stop, because this is like the perfect example of how Mr. Jelly and I work together, and the board works with us, trusting us. Number one, it's how we utilize attrition. We talk about attrition a lot, but you can see this example right here. We're going down from 3 to 2. Okay, so you see that attrition right there on our 5-year forecast approaches $600,000. Okay, so now you have a $600 savings. Then when we look at some of the where we need positions, not only do we try to have savings, we try to utilize other sources in grants. So you can see where Mr. Jolly mentioned that, okay, we're going to have this other position come in, we're going to use these other funds. That's off, I don't want to say off the books, but it's not in the general fund. It's not in our taxpayer dollars. So this is where we're maximizing our taxpayer dollars. Then the last thing, and that's the reason I wanted to interject. I don't want to make this real long, but I think it's something that we need to recognize. And I want to thank the board for being advanced and trusting us for this. The last one is investing in the needs of the district. Mr. Jolly is honing in, hey, this is a program, this is an area we need to concentrate on. So he's taking, we have a savings from attrition, and that's going to flow through to our general fund. We're looking at a program that we need for our scholars, and we're financing it first with grants and outside sources. So we thank you so much for supporting us. But I'm sorry I wanted to stand up, because I just figured this is like the best example to say, time out, wait a minute, this is where it's happening. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, is any further questions, comments? Dr. Rock, can you call the roll for item 3.1?
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. If we can please have a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certificated staff, and this is going to be items 4.1 through 4.6.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certified staff 4.1 through 4.6.
Thank you. May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this section?
No, I just wanted to mention 4.5. Last year we hired the after school all-stars to provide programming after the summer school in the morning. This year we used our own teachers at a savings. We pay like $75,000 using extra money. And this year, instead of paying them to do it, we pay our own teachers to do it. And our teachers are doing all type of activities in the afternoon with the students. Again, building bonds with our students. But also, when we talk about pay, it directly increases their pay too, which makes us more marketable for our staff. So I just wanted to share that. Last year we had an outside source we didn't really like, because they didn't have the bonds with the students, didn't know the students, and so forth. And then we went to our teachers, and our teachers said they'll do it. And so they're doing it, and it's going well. We haven't heard any issues this time.
That's awesome.
So this is K to 5.
And how were those students selected?
These are students who have been identified based on reading scores. So we're doing reading intervention, and then if a parent self-select, they can come in too. If a parent wants in, we'll let them in. So we do all we can to catch the kids up. It's just, and the kids like it. And then we also did the 9th grade Bridge Academy. We had like 15 kids show up, and those 15 kids, we did a second week. The same 15 came the second week because they enjoyed it and liked it. And that's something that we need better participation in. But that then seems more the need for us to be prepared when school starts, especially going into this new building. Raising the expectation, because the things that went on in the old building will not be tolerated at all. I'm just saying we were a transition year last year. We had trailers, and now the ninth grade be concentrated on the first floor. They will have to go on the second floor for possibly art. I said the honor students will go up on the second floor. So the school is really segregated by grades, pretty much. And the honor students get to go all up because they take advanced classes. So my expectation is that the seniors are on the third floor. The third floor got two extended learning areas. It's pretty much like a penthouse on the third floor. And you earn your way to the third floor. That's our vision of that. And the expectation that kids act and behave accordingly. And like we said last year, the expectations that our staff members hold the students accountable for their behavior. They expect to be in class on time. They're expected to be respectful and responsible. And they're expected to be ready in dress code. And I know there's a lot of people that dispute the dress code. I believe we have to keep dress code because it prepares our students to go into the workforce. If we don't prepare them, then they will not be prepared. It's also a safety concern for me because kids walking, they're wearing $300-400 clothes, which makes them targets to unscrupulous people. We don't want that. So we did relax the dress code. If you look in the handbook, which is on here, relaxed it in a way in which you can wear Warrensville Tiger gear any day of the week. You can wear a Warrensville t-shirt. We allow that flexibility with the students. As long as you wear Warrensville clothes, you're good. So again, that prompts school spirit, but also ensure that they're still in our uniform. So I want to mention that because that's important. I think people lose focus, and I'll give you an example. I went on a trip out of the country, and all the kids wore dress code. It was like they wore dress code. The expectation, the school is like your job. So you going to work. And I think we need to have that same mentality. Like school is not a club, it's not a place to congregate, but it is a place of learning. And you have to wear your uniform. And I know I'm like a minority with that thought, but we're preparing people to go into the workforce. And a lot of times our community or sometimes our families don't prepare our students to go into the workforce. And that's our job is to get them ready. And they cannot show up to work out of their McDonald's uniform or go to the post office and decide they want to wear jeans today and stay at their job. I don't know why school shouldn't be the same way. And if they decide to go to Hawkins or decide to go to university school, they wear their dress code every single day. A Benedict. And we hold the same expectations as those schools. So I just want to share that. All right. So that's 4.
Anything else? Hearing nothing, Dr. Rakim, please call the roll.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is item 5. If we can please have a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action classified staff. This is going to be for items 5.1 and 5.2.
Madam Chair, I move item number 5 on tonight's agenda, the superintendent recommendation and presentation for board action classified staff, looking for items 5.1 through 5.2.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Before we move to vote, are there any questions or comments on this section?
Just a quick question. So we don't have anybody for the elementary school under 5.2?
No, they're still interviewing. So we'll bring, and I apologize for that not being taken out.
Thank you.
And we have people to replace. We had some people retire during the year. I'm praying that Miss Miller be back too. We pray she come back. Miss Miller. Yeah, we pray she
Running, man.
So that might potentially could be enough.
Okay. And hear no other discussion, Dr. Rakim, please call the roll.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next up is item 6. If I can please have a motion to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs. And this is going to be item 6.1 through 6.11.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as the consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs 6.1 through 6.11.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. I know, Mr. Jolly, there's some items here you want to talk about.
Yes, so 6.1 is one that we pass every year, and that's related to students who are in PEP. A lot of those students are already placed here when they transfer to the district. 6.2 is a football team going to West Virginia University. I think this is real big for our football team to have this opportunity. I do know that we will be bringing a donation from the Rock Casino of $10,000 to the board. The Rock Casino donated $10,000 to the football team to cover expenses.
That is awesome.
So we'll be bringing that to the board at the next meeting.
Okay.
6.3 is naming recommendations. So as part of the superintendent's committee was to make recommendations to name various parts of the new building or to dedicate different places of the new building. One of the considerations is based upon people's service to the community and service to the district. So these are the recommendations. The auditorium, Yvette Nicole Brown, who is a famous actress, who's been active and came back to our school district every time she comes to Cleveland. She is very active here at the gymnasium, of course, after our mayor and only person in Warrensville history to make the NBA, which is Brad Sellers. Our athletic field, which is our baseball field, named after Mr. Stanley Miller. Stanley Miller was very instrumental in youth baseball for I think over 20 years. Most people here played for him or was part of the program that he was part of. The outdoor and indoor concession stands, which we have two, one for football and one for the inside the cafeteria for Miss Georgia Lester, who manned the concession stand for over 35 years. Her kid last graduated in 1996, I believe, and she just stopped when the pandemic hit. And she was doing a one-lady show, I would say, for the last 10, 15 years, and people would just help her. So I think that she's earned, and I think the committee will agree that she's earned to have her name attached to that. On the steam room, again, Mr. Ed Chambers just transferring that up. We have two steam rooms in the building, but Mr. Chambers was very instrumental in that. Two people who, one is no longer with us and one is sick right now, Melvin Lester and William Merritt. Any athlete that came through this district for the last 30 years, they were actively engaged at every game, came to every game. So we wanted to dedicate bleachers to them, both inside the gym and in the football field, because they were in both, and everybody can attest to that. So we want them to always be at every game still and continue. The production room, we had a great teacher who passed away, who did great plays throughout his time here, and we want to name the production room after Mr. Brian McConnell. The wrestling room, again, another person who served over 30-some years. He's the only coach here to ever have a state finish, state qualifier, have a state champion. We wanted to dedicate the wrestling room to Mr. Jonathan Clay. Another person who was very dedicated to our sports. His kids graduated in 1994, I believe, the last one, and was still around until he passed away, was Mr. John Fuller. And then our latest people, the visitor baseline bleachers, and this is in our new gym, which has bleachers on all 4 walls. After the Hausers, Mrs. Valerie Hauser and John Hauser. Mrs. Hauser, again, their kids been gone a long time, and she was active in the Farmer Roar. She's been active ever since I've been here, and the people on the committee could attest to her service. So those are the recommendations that we hope the board approve. We would like to do dedications to all of them at homecoming, which is October 14th.
Oh, okay.
That's a Saturday. That's homecoming Saturday. October 14th is the date that we would like to have a ceremony recognizing all of them. Prayerfully, we can have the plaques in place at that time, and then we can just do a ceremony. Those who are still with us, but their family members would be able to see what's going on. Also, are there any questions about that?
I think they did an excellent job.
Two people on the committee is on the board, which is Ms. Gator and Mr. Roberts. And y'all want to add anything to my explanation?
Mr. Burks is
Mr. Burks also is on the committee. Also, I'm sorry, Mr. Burks.
Excellent job.
Yeah, Mr. Burks is on the committee also. And then Karen House. So it's Mr. Burks, Mr. Roberts, Ms. Gator. Savannah was on it, but Savannah, due to her pregnancy, was not in on the final determinations. So, any of the committee members want to add anything?
I'll just say that we had a good mix of people. We had really good recommendations, a lot of healthy, hearty discussions about what we should and shouldn't do, and then I think we all came together with the perfect list. So, thank you for your leadership on this, Mr. Ballard.
All right, so we move on to already. This is what we use as a diagnostic tool for K to 5. It becomes a personalized program once kids take tests. It strengthens and goes to each child's weaknesses. 6.5 is G codes. Again, this is an enrichment program for our foundations, which helps students decode text. Part of our reading program. 6.6 is the student code of conduct. Again, I did share the change with the dress code, but it's pretty much the same. No real change. We send it to you guys with the highlighted changes in it. 6.7 is education alternative, same as well. 6.8 is, so as you know, that parking lot at the church has to be repaved. So this is the base bid to replace that parking lot. We probably, Jonathan could give more context on where we're going with this. But the parking lot is in disrepair, and it definitely has to be surfaced before we start school back. Jonathan, you want to add context?
And this is the board authorizing us to go to competitive bid.
Good evening, board. Yeah, we have a large parking lot, and we're going to do it in phases. The first phase is what you see here now. That's the main parking area in front of the building where everybody will be parking at. We're going to go out. We hired a company, Lewis Land Professionals, so we can make sure that we are staying within code, Ohio Revised Code. They're going to facilitate the bids, put the bids out on the street, and then once we get the bids back, we will sit down and review the bids and then select. And then our hope is from there that whoever gets awarded, the alternates that we have in place for the back and the side lot, they can provide alternate pricing to get that done also. Right.
So what's at the main lot? Is that the lot
in the front? As soon as you pull in, that will fully replace the entrance and exit all the way to the front door. It's kind of before you go around the retention pond, that will be all replaced. And then the alternates is the back.
What is your timeline?
The hopes is to get it in before school starts. So right now with everybody ramping up, we're getting asphalt and everything. We're being told that it's probably going to be mid-August, end August. We'll be right at the timeline to get it done. All right.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I'm sorry. Then 610 is handled with care. So I did get a question about that, and I do want to share that we have had this in the past. And basically, what this is if there's a call to 911 or anything that the school district is informed. So one of the disconnects that happens is that things happen and the school district doesn't know about it. So a kid might be absent 2 weeks. We don't even know what happened or what the cause is. So this is an agreement where the law enforcement will contact us if something happens to a student. So we have had this in place in the past. And I think it has worked relatively well because we have been aware of situations and been able to provide support for students who need it in those situations. So we have had it, and it also allows us to provide and get support for that kid, like mental health or the things that's necessary when they return back to the school. And you know, we have some awful situations that occur throughout the school year. So, and that's that. And then 611 is the job description for the behavior intervention support specialist, as I described earlier. For us to, for the board to approve it, then we can post that to run that and see where we go with that.
Right, and that will be at the
High school. It'll be at the high school.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, hearing none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. All right, as we move along, we don't have any unfinished business. And if we move into section 8, we do need a motion on the floor to approve 8.1, board attendance at the Federal Advocacy Conference. And once we put the motion on the floor, then we'll note who's going so we can go ahead and vote.
Madam Chairman, can you go back to unfinished business?
I know what you're gonna ask.
Okay.
It's the date. It's the date. We can settle on a date after the board meeting ends for the retreat, the reschedule of the retreat, because we've got 2 dates we've got to land on. Unless you
No, however you want.
it's just
I just wanted to make sure.
I hadn't forgotten. Yeah, I haven't forgotten. All right. So if we can have a motion on the floor for item 8.1, and then we'll discuss who's going to attend. Because Ray, when is the registration?
The early bird for, we don't have on there the symposium, July 17th. You save $60 if you can get it in by July 17th for the August 24th and 25th. In Chicago, it's a day and a half symposium. This federal advocacy is coming up in September, but we can.
Okay. So we have federal advocacy on here, but do we need? Is that the same as the UVA?
No.
So we need it because we pushed it in the email that you sent.
No, the one I wanted was the urban boards. I think Dr. Rockleby had the one supposedly.
Yes.
The one is August 24th.
Yeah. Are you asking us to attend this federal advocacy conference, or we?
No, it's out there. I thought they sent literature from UBA and from Ohio School Boards Association. I mean, it's not until September. We have time to vote on that, but we can. I mean, I don't think the board has a chance to review.
Which one do we need to vote on tonight?
UBA.
Okay.
Supposedly.
So we do need to make a change to the agenda. This is not federal advocacy. It's the UBA conference.
Correct.
August 24th and 25th.
That's correct.
I'm sorry, that's my fault. I was supposed to put that onto the agenda.
No problem.
That's not a problem.
Yep.
We can fix it now before we go to the motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for item number 8, the Urban Boards Alliance Symposium in Chicago, Illinois, from August 24th through August 25th, 2023.
May I have a second? Thank you. So now, I know, remember, Vice President Roberts wants to go. Who else other than Roberts and Freeman was planning to attend that conference?
I'd like to go.
It currently conflicts with our convocation.
It does conflict with convocation, just an FYI.
Me and Mr. Roberts talked about it a month ago, but I thank you, Mr. Roberts, for making me aware of it.
It's Friday, right? It's the 25th.
That's the last day, correct. It starts on a Thursday at 1, and it won't be over until that Friday at 3 o'clock.
Let me think about that one. That's our first convocation in the new
In the
building,
new
right?
building.
Correct.
And then there's this federal advocacy that's coming up in September too.
Correct.
Is that through that as well?
Wisconsin. Yep.
Where's
Wisconsin.
that? Where's that one?
That's in Washington D.C.
I may forego that one then and just try to. I'll let you know if I can just reach out to Dr. Rock directly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll let the board know what I decide. And the federal advocacy is when in September?
It's September 17th or 18th. I got those.
Okay, so what we'll do is approve Roberts, Freeman, and Gator as a possibility for attendance at the August UVA conference in Chicago. So, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chair, I do have something to say, and I didn't know that our football team is going to West Virginia. And my little cousin is Sean Martin. He's a 2-year starter, he's number 91, and he starts. So I got to call Sean tonight and tell him to look for our scholars because he's 6'5", 290, and he's supposed to go pro. He's a big boy.
Awesome. All right, then, do we have any correspondence, Dr. Rock?
No.
All righty. And do we have any additional announcements? Okay. All right, hearing none, if we can please have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.